Hello, everybody, and welcome to this presentation of the ECL Elite Division right here on Sports Gamer. My name is Tuki, joined as always by my broadcast partner, Mr. Sin, for the win. And Sin, today, can you believe it? We wrap up the regular season. This is our final broadcast here in week 6. This is the home stretch to find out just what exactly these teams will be looking at heading into the postseason. Unbelievable that we're already here and still so much to play for here on today's broadcast alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Färjestad trying to fight their way into a playoff berth here. This first matchup extremely important for them, and Jyväskylä trying to maybe work their way out of a potential relegation position as well. So again, when we always say there's always something to play for here, and this matchup here, last kind of broadcast day of the regular season doesn't really get much bigger than this.
Absolutely not. So we'll look at the standings as they happen to be heading in to the action today. Again, the top 8 teams secure a playoff position. H-Reds, of course, are 2-time defending champions, already claiming that number 1 seed. And for the most part, Sin, we know where people are going to be. The only shuffling is going to be 6 and below at this stage. Of course, Roots, if they have success, could technically jump Havu Gaming for that 6th seed. But what we're really watching today is the fact that Roots could also find themselves on the outside looking in. I believe if the math and tiebreaker scenarios are correct. You look at Roots, currently 34 points with 2 games to go, could obviously be jumped by Conquer Gaming, but it's Färjestad, and that last team that we're looking at for the playoff positions that could work their way in, which again is very surprising here given what FBK has accomplished over the past few seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And given what we thought their lineup would be able to bring to the table this season, it looked incredible on paper. They just, have still been trying to find ways to make it completely work in practice here. And, this is their huge opportunity, their last kind of ditch effort to be able to get into the playoffs. And then as kind of anything can happen from there. But yeah, this is obviously a really big matchup for them.
And of course, the other matchups that we are watching, the potential relegation spots, 13, 14, and 15. Again, you finish in one of those positions, you do have to fight for your survival against a Pro Division team, whereas the team in last will automatically be relegated. And Sin IQ have been charging back and have really pushed it down to the wire as they are within striking distance, 1 point off of Stargazing, who of course were promoted last season. And Sin, it's unfortunate that we don't have a broadcast tomorrow. I don't know if they're actually playing these games tomorrow or if they moved them up to today, but the final game of the season for both Stargazing and IQ is against one another. Those 2 teams basically in a playoff scenario in their final regular season matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Fighting, essentially, like you said, kind of fighting for survival to stay in the elite, at least, getting a chance to play a relegation match. So, yeah, indeed. I mean, that's going to be an absolutely massive matchup that we're going to want to keep our eyes on and see how that falls through. But, in this matchup, too, Jyväskylä has a chance perhaps to, work their way out of that relegation position by being able to leapfrog ZSC. It's kind of wild how these standings have shaked up and how much this last broadcast day can affect things.
You mentioned it. Our first matchup today, it is Jyväskylä against Färjestad. Färjestad looking to work their way into the playoffs, and Jyväskylä looking to work their way out of that relegation position. As we get a look at the team stats here, goals against and dead even, a drastic difference in the goals for.
Yeah, Jyväskylä just hasn't been able to get that offense going really at all throughout the course of the season. That's been the biggest detriment for them. They started off the season pretty good, able to win kind of those close games, but once that game starts opening up and they're not allowing themselves to play that tight kind of game, they really begin to fall apart here. And when you're going against a team like Färjestad, who loves to try to open things up and has so many different ways to open things up, then, it could be very tough to shut them down. I mean, obviously, it's a very different team, 2 very different teams now, but you think back to a few seasons ago where Jyväskylä was the 1 seed, Färjestad was the 8 seed, and they upset them in that first round playoff. So a lot of history here between these 2 teams.
A quick look at the latest results as well to show you kind of the form that these 2 teams are in heading into this matchup. Färjestad, fresh off of a split against playoff-bound Örebro Hockey. Again, a very promising season for Örebro as well. And for Jyväskylä, you see there at the bottom, Sin, splitting a series against Roots. So both of these teams kind of in similar form heading into this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're Färjestad here, this is kind of make or break time. And it's kind of same thing for Jyväskylä. They're mostly trying to stay in this division, but for Färjestad, with the changes they made to the lineup, with their pedigree of being a consistent playoff team, sometimes good enough to get into that second round too, to see them miss the playoffs would be really a huge loss.
Absolutely. So again, that is our first matchup of the day. Coming up here, our featured matchup, and we will have a little bit more action to cover a little bit later on. But for now, here are the lineups that these two teams are going with in their final two regular season games. For Jyväskylä, it is Aro, Antti, and the captain Indy on that right-hand side. Sile and Sakam on defense, and Kazu in goal. For Färjestad, of course, the front three, Afe, Malin, and Ekin. Sebi Larson, Laminens on defense, Provocacia in goal. No McSavid here tonight, and how big of a factor might that be? We'll start off with that center comparison, though. Malin and Antti. And Sin, this is where it gets to be surprising for FBK, because Malin has been as big of a point producer as we've expected him to be, yet this team still finds themselves in the position they are currently sitting in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's had just a fantastic season, actually leading his team in points with those 42. It's a quite high total. He's only just a few points off from where Eki was, sitting. But it's just, again, like something about this Färjestad team just hasn't quite clicked yet. But Malin obviously doing his part with a positive face-off record and a solid amount of points through these games so far. And on the flip side, Antti, sub point per game, sub the 50% on the face-offs. Jyväskylä clearly kind of still trying to adjust and find their previous form, which allowed them to be kind of a mainstay elite team.
I know they were very much hoping to be back in a playoff spot this season. Certainly now the goal, make sure you're in the elite division in our winter 23 season in general. We move over to the winger comparison. Again, Aro and Indy facing off against Afe and Ekin. And of course, then again, the production where you expect it to be, although you could argue maybe a little bit lower than you expect it to be for FBK. These two guys, I mean, obviously, we know Afe's reputation in this division. Ekin's a phenomenal 1v1 player as well. Still solid numbers, but not out of this world. And then on the other side for Yip, it's kind of the same story. I know, for somebody like Aro, highly touted, a lot of teams looking at him. Yip were able to secure his services, but that offense in general, not just him, but that offense in general hasn't really clicked to the extent that I think they thought it would.
Yeah, absolutely. Still kind of a lot of things to try to figure out here and there. Unfortunately for them, they're just, like you said, they haven't quite been able to get it going. But yeah, I think you're right on the flip side of Färjestad. No, I don't think Afe is kind of where we expected him to be in the way of points. Goals pretty close, but he's usually been good for a goal per game season. He's a little bit behind that pace. Ekin, solid point totals, but for someone as good as him, you kind of expect him to be much more above that point per game mark here. And I think we'll get to see a similar kind of story developing when you look at the defense as well.
And let's throw it over to that now, as again for Jyväskylä, Sile and Sakam against Sebi Larson and Laminens. Of course, the extreme physicality on display for the duo on defense for Jyväskylä. On the other side, though, the point totals, again, very, very solid for this Färjestad team. Offense hasn't necessarily been the issue, even though, again, I think because everybody can tell at this point, Sin, we have very high expectations for these five.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even they were considered to be one of the top three teams by Eki himself when he was kind of doing his own predictions. I think he had him in the top 3 or 4, and it just hasn't quite worked out. So perhaps the expectations a bit too steep as Färjestad try to figure these things out. But again, all this has to go out the window in this matchup. They need points and they need them quick. They're definitely looking to get a 2-0 in this series here. But I think you really hit the nail on the head. The physicality of the back end for Jyväskylä, will that allow them to kind of shut things down, or could that physicality actually, pull them out of position and allow Afe to get his speed going with some time and space?
Absolutely. And of course, our final individual head-to-head here, it is Kazu in goal. He has been the number one all season long, all 28 games played. But on the other side, Sin, as we mentioned a few moments ago, there is no McSavid in this one. McSavid's numbers on the season, I mean, 82% save percentage with a 2.29 goals against average. Provocacia icing or taking the ice just 4 times so far this season, and obviously the numbers nowhere near the caliber of numbers that he is capable of putting up. So it kind of puts FBK in a really interesting spot here without their number one goalie, and they are not currently in a playoff spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to take a lot in this matchup. Obviously the numbers don't look great, but at the same time, like you're going up against a team which hasn't scored a whole heck of a lot this season, so you should be able to find a way to shut them down. You should be able to, get something going, be able to, put enough goals by. And that's kind of the onus is kind of on the 5 men in front of him to help him out as best they can, play a solid, team defensive game and put up the goal support. We've seen at times throughout this season in certain games, Färjestad struggling to give goal support to McSavid, who is, making big save after big save after big save here. So we'll see if they're going to be able to do that against JYP.
Absolutely. So again, the situation here for this broadcast, we kick things off Jyväskylä and Färjestad. We do have word that we are also going to be able to cover the final regular season matchup for Conquer Gaming as they take on ZSC Esports. Again, we'll throw it back to the standings here really quickly to show you the situation in that matchup as Conquer, who a lot of people thought would be relegation fodder, are very, very close to locking down a playoff spot, and a lot of that sin depends on what happens in this first matchup with Färjestad. And of course, you mentioned it earlier for ZSC, important matchup for them as they are trying to avoid falling below that 12th place spot. So a very important matchup coming up a little bit later on. And on top of that, if we have time to cover it, our pro division as well, getting a little bit of a spotlight depending on what happens in a series between the Växjö Lakers and the Hervlev Eagles. We'll try to cover that if we can. Of course, the Pro Division playoffs down to the round of 8, and we might have a Final Four set up here. Växjö currently leading that series. So again, we are trying to cover as much for you today as we possibly can. Still so much to play for today, and unfortunately off broadcast tomorrow to decide these final playoff spots. A reminder, though, when we come back next week for the start of the playoffs, our little pre-production or pre-broadcast preview video is what I was going for there. Before Sin and I get the action going on our next broadcast, we will have, of course, our annual season recap and playoff prediction video. So make sure to tune in early on that next broadcast day. And, of course, it'll be up on the YouTube channel as well to talk about what has been Sin an unbelievable season yet again. It comes down to the wire for so many different situations, the playoff spots, the relegation spots. This season has certainly lived up to the hype, even if certain predictable things haven't necessarily happened. I mean, I'd say that's only a benefit, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you head into every season being like, all right, these are the 8 that are going to make the playoffs, and that happens, how much excitement is there really?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to see, teams like Edinburgh and Conquer making the kind of push that they've been able to make and sneaking into playoffs. It's great to see Roots, right now in that spot because they've been working so hard to kind of get over that hump, always kind of ending in that 9 or 10 seed over the couple last season. So, yeah, it's been just really great to see a lot of the, the differences in this season. A lot of twists and turns along this road that we've been traveling as well.
Absolutely. And a reminder of what these teams are playing for here. Of course, this is our spring season. We covered our winter season, obviously, heading into the new year. Of course, again, as mentioned, H-Reds winning that winter season and that 6K Euro prize pool. If H-Reds were to win the spring season as well, they would automatically claim that grand final prize of 10K Euro. However, if a new team wins this spring season, they will take on H-Reds for that 10K prize pool, of course, next month, live in Helsinki for our final, not just for the spring season, but of course, Sin and I will be there live on location. That's June 17th, 18th, and if there is a grand final on the 19th, we will be there live to cover all of the action for you on that set of days, Sin, which again is incredible to think that we are just a few short weeks away. Not only, of course, from covering the end of a season, but knowing that, hey, we're going to get to cover this as, live and in person as well. Long time coming for that, of course. But as we can see here, the teams are matched up. Trying to get a look at the player builds here for Färjestad, and indeed, it is exactly what you would expect. Playmakers down the middle, everyone else puck-moving defensemen, with the exception of Afe, still running that patented sniper build as we expect him to do. But this is, again, a gigantic game. Jyväskylä trying to get out of a relegation spot, and Färjestad trying to work their way into a playoff spot here. And these two teams play their final 2 games of the season.
Yeah, something that we didn't necessarily think we were going to be saying at this point was Färjestad trying to battle their way into a playoff position, but here they are. And like we said, at this point, you have to find a way to get the job done. This is a team that's below you in the standings. This is a game that maybe you expect them to at least get 3, or a matchup that you expect them to get at least 3 points out of. Now they have to deliver. I mean, we've had some expectations for Färjestad that they haven't quite delivered on, but this is the biggest one for them this season.
As you see on your screen there, of course, we are still looking for the best and worst moments that NHL 22 has had to offer you. All you have to do is share your clips on Twitter and Instagram using the hashtag eHockeyMoments, and some IQ fuel could be yours. We're still giving away a prize package there every week until the end of June. Again, that is the hashtag eHockeyMoments on Twitter and Instagram. Sin, we are about ready to go. Before that, though, of course, wasn't sure if we'd have time to put that graphic up. Of course, the Wilhelm eHockey Tour going on every single weekend, still all throughout Finland. Sportsgamer.gg for all the information that you need on that. And again, we thank our lovely sponsor at Wilhelm. Sin and I talk about that finals event coming up in June. Sin, that much closer to getting your hands on some Wilhelm snacks.
Absolutely. Cannot wait. It's going to be great to see Finland, but obviously the Wilhelm snacks taking the priority.
There we go. So, again, Färjestad in their home green. Jyväskylä in their road whites. An incredibly important matchup here and an incredibly important save early on for Provocacia with that glove.
Yeah, an early kind of flurry from Jyväskylä trying to catch Färjestad, not quite ready, and they almost did so, but you said it. That was a huge save coming out from Provocacia. Good to see him settling in early.
Indy works his way over the blue line, trying to hold on to it. Antti now down low in the corner. Sebbe Larsson able to take that one away and holds on to it. Good patience. Again, the defensive side of things, where both of these teams have struggled this year. Färjestad's offense has been potent as expected. Trouble for Kazu. He is able to find it and cover. Whereas we talked about Yip's offensive struggles throughout the season in our pregame.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'd kind of think that, something's got to give for either one of these teams. If Jyväskylä could get some scoring going, or maybe Färjestad is able to finally get the shutdown that they need.
So Larsson back for Afe, down low to Ekin. And unfortunately, going to be called for a slash. Went for the stick lift. It will be an early Jyväskylä power play.
Yeah, and that's a bit unfortunate for Färjestad. They're starting to get a bit of offensive zone time, good cycles down low, good bit of forechecking to keep those pucks alive, and the slash just coming out from Ekin right there will put him in the box. So just like that, it's sort of erased, and going to get to see Jyväskylä's power play go to work. It hasn't been tremendous over the course of the season. In fact, it's ranked 15th, but at this stage, it's just throw percentages out the window, get a goal as trickles towards the net.
Or walk it into the net if you're Indy. Good job there by Sebbe Larsson. Picking up that loose puck, and here's Afe, perhaps a short-handed bid. A bit too much pressure, and solid defense there by Sakam. Dishes the puck back to Antti. This power play nearly half over already. Sile has it now. Sakam tried to go back down low. Afe able to clear. Great work there. The Yip power play, not really able to get anything going here. And that doesn't help.
Yeah, they lost the zone pretty early on, and they just really have been struggling to regain it. So good job by Färjestad to kind of, patrol that blue line, but also a few miscommunications and some awkward passing coming out from Jyväskylä here. And that's just kind of a power play opportunity that could actually take the momentum away, and that's exactly what Färjestad want.
We are back to 5-on-5. Here's Ekin now, takes the shot, big kick, rebound out from Kazu, nobody home to pick it up. Yip again, unsuccessful on that power play attempt, looking to get things going. Indeed, nowhere to go. Antti's there to recover it, though. Goes over to Sile. Shot blocked down. Great work by Ekin. who has it again here. And Sockham doing a great job of shutting down these rush opportunities for Färjestad. On the other side there, you could say the same thing about Lehmanen's double team pressure, though he can't find it. Anti's shot doesn't go. One of the better looks so far for either side. As JYP finally getting some offensive zone time here. Decent movement. Such a last pass, just kind of an example of hoping something was there instead of playing what actually was available. We're down under 7 minutes here in this first period. In game 29 of 30 for both of these two teams. Still a ton to play for. And a great pick off there by Sebi Larsson. May have just saved a goal.
Absolutely, that was huge right there. That puck was coming through. It was a great saucer pass, well-timed, well-put, and yeah, Sebi Larsson even better with his positioning to intercept that, and I think you're right. He absolutely saved the goal.
Mullen now tried to go over to Afe. Didn't quite hit the intended target. Anti to Indy, hits the side of the net, maybe clipped the post as well. Shot from an odd angle. And two Färjestad players there to block. We continue to see these defensive struggles. And there's the opening goal. Aro finds the back of the net. 1-0 for JYP Jyväskylä.
Defensive struggles is absolutely right. Failing to clear the zone against the JYP Jyväskylä team, which has struggled offensively all throughout this season here. But they figured something out right there. Just a beautiful job. That's hunger right there. Staying on the puck, getting it back, and feeding it to the middle for Aro, who walks in a little bit and risks that one home on the glove side behind Provocacia. And Färjestad, man, not the start that we really envisioned. I'm sure not the start that they wanted here, but they need a response, and they need it quickly.
I mean, again, we said the defensive struggles for them have been the problem. I think that's on display here, and it's very, very surprising with the 5 skaters that they happen to put out there to see them struggling to this extent. And not what we would have expected heading into the season. Again, they were a team that were projected by most to very much be able to make the playoffs this season. Instead, here they are, down by 1 towards the end of this first period. They do have some offensive zone time here, the most they could probably had throughout this period. Very few examples of it. Lehmann gets that pass down low, and the follow-up pass goes out of the zone. That will do it for this opening frame. JYP Jyväskylä striking first, despite some good saves from Provocacia.
Yeah, he had to make some pretty tough saves right there, and there was the shot that was blocked by a couple of guys a bit earlier that they really caught Provocacia off guard. He was completely on the other side of the net, and they did that quick pass out to the back and the short side shot, and fortunately it was blocked away. So there's been a couple instances of Färjestad, being in good position defensively. The problem is they defended way too much in that period there, and it really kind of came back to bite them. That one time that they had some offensive zone pressure of their own, they took a penalty, put themselves on the PK. And then briefly, kind of after that, we saw them at the end of the period here finally get some offensive zone time, but I don't even think they got a shot out of it. They were looking for something in the middle, and it wasn't there, and they kept kind of beating their heads against that proverbial wall. And at the end of all things, they sent the puck out of the zone on their own volition. So definitely not a strong start for Färjestad. They're going to want to try to find something else here and get going in the second period. But this is unfortunately kind of been the Färjestad team that we've seen all season. It's there, and they just can't seem to kind of grasp it and take control.
Firmly grasp it. The call. Let's see if they can do that as we move on. Never too early for some SpongeBob references, right? Zaro has it down low again. His goal, great chance there from Indy. This is his 11th of the season. His rookie campaign here. We'll be excited as well heading into that finals broadcast. We'll have our awards to hand out as always. A very intriguing rookie race this season. We have seen some phenomenal players win that Rookie of the Year award in the past. The likes of one Nicky NHL, former Nicky Dangles. Of course, Pika Roger won it last year. This one dish down low, and Ekin able to pick up that loose puck and trying to lead things down the other way. Sebi Larsson stepping up into the play. Goes back to Mullen at the point. Again down low. Ekin. Will he pull the trigger? He won't. Poked away to the far side where he recovers. Raymond again tries to go down low and a bit surprised by the approach in the offensive zone from Färjestad so far. There's a great poke check there again by Ekin. Mullen again feeds over to Sebi Larsen. Holds in the corner. Again, tries to rifle a pass through 3 defenders. Playing the odds there, and now coming up with the victory, and a good job there, though, by Lehman to take away a cross-ice pass, but his follow-up pass is off the mark.
The play on the rush from Färjestad, at least from the defensive pairing, has been great to kind of neutralize some of these chances, but it's when they get in the zone, like we saw right there, they're just getting into these positions and just ripping it. The problem with Färjestad is they continue to look for the perfect chance instead of, as we saw earlier, Ekin wasn't in a bad position. Elected not to shoot, tried to pass. Again, I think in that entire zone possession, they didn't register a single shot.
Sebi Larsen again stepping up. Laminins can't hold it. Indy has one man to beat as Mullen backtracks and handles it perfectly. Aro had nowhere to go on the follow-up opportunity. Mullen and Ekin have been fantastic in terms of their two-way game, but again, we are over halfway through this game now, and Färjestad not able to get much going. Here's Indy again, and he scores! The quick flip to the forehand, buries it blocker side, and Jyväskylä have a 2-0 lead.
This is a bit shocking. I mean, that kind of play, getting that kind of space is something that we expected out of this matchup from Färjestad here, but it's Jyväskylä doing an excellent transition play. That feed over to Indy, a thing of beauty. It gives him a bit of time and space. He walks in, gets on the forehand, and beats Provocacia, taking a 2-0 lead for Jyväskylä, and they're firmly in the driver's seat right now. Färjestad have got to find an answer here, and they need to find it quickly. Might be time to just start ripping shots on net.
Indeed, still a long way to go. But certainly not the performance we've needed to see. Wraparound bid just didn't quite have the angle. Good look from Ekin, but certainly not what we expected to see from Färjestad. Outside looking in, heading into the action today. There's the quick out, perfectly scouted by Sockham. Jyväskylä struggling for offense this season. Färjestad not exactly in that same position, but defensively, the numbers indicating that they've struggled, and we've seen that so far in this game. Ekin drops back for Laminins. His pass doesn't go through. A lot of forced pass attempts from Färjestad. They're not working. They eventually might, but it's tough to bank on that. As Mullen again tries to feed it through, and Sockham, to put it nicely, makes them look foolish. Indy back to the point now for Sile. Send that one all the way around the boards, picked up along the half wall. Back to Sile, and a great save by Provocacia. He did see it all the way. No net front presence. Still a tough stop to make. At the final minute here of the second period. Jyväskylä so far so good. Need to stop Färjestad from scoring late here and maybe flipping that momentum. Loose puck. Sebi Larsen can't hold it. Antti will send it down. No Mike Smith moment for Provocacia. Will bring us to the end of the second period with a 2-0 lead now in one of the most complete performances we've seen from Jyväskylä so far this season, since we do still have the third period to play.
Yeah, complete performance, hitting the nail right on the head. They know exactly what Färjestad want to do, and they're just simply shutting it down. And I think Färjestad is playing a bit into their hands right now, and I'm not too sure if they realize it, which is a bit surprising to me. They're such a good team with such a good awareness as you see it. They got 4 minutes time on attack, but just the 2 registered shots. So that's, not exactly where you want to be. I mean, I think bare minimum for every minute of time on attack, I think you'd want to register at least 1 shot, and they're quite behind the 8 ball in that regard here. They're really not testing Kazu in any kind of way. They want that for sure goal, but that's simply not something that they can rely on or have been able to rely on. And Jyväskylä's just collapsing in the middle and saying, and daring them to try to get those passes through. And Färjestad continues to try to go back to that well. And unfortunately, they've drawn 0 water so far. And one more Peter if Jyväskylä can play this way and shut them down as they have been doing. A huge 2 points, and that may just put the playoffs out of reach for Färjestad.
The puck down low here, wraparound bid, runs out of runway. ECL Elite Division action brought to you by Wilhelm, Kovan Lakritzi, and ST Hockey. SportsGamer.gg for all the information that you need here as we wind down the regular season here in the Elite Division. And a little bit later on, we'll have the team that is the closest to Färjestad in the standings, Conquer Gaming, in action. They have to be loving what they're seeing right now as that one's thrown off the side of the cage. And Aro will send it back to the point for Sile. Wanted to go around, it's poked back to the neutral zone. Good pressure there by Afe. Great chop as well. Can they make the most of this? Laminen's back to Sebi Larson. I don't know if that was deflected or if he healed the shot. And unfortunately, that pass goes right through him and all the way back down.
Yeah, I think he got enough of that shot. I think it just hit a body in front, but I like the look, shooting it on net, and it kind of went to the side on the rebound. But that is going to be beneficial for Färjestad. If Jyväskylä continue to collapse as heavily as they are to stop those passes, then shots for the points, even if they hit a body, gives you a good chance of retrieving, because Jyväskylä is going to be collapsed in the middle. The boards are yours for the taking, even for either for cycling or getting those loose pucks back. So I'd like to see Färjestad taking some more of those perimeter shots.
Get back into the attacking zone here. Nearly got it to Aro in front. He has a goal in this game, and again, nearly had another one. The last second block in front. Antti has to go down low for Sebi Larson. Great job there by Indy. The captain really forcing the agenda in the offensive zone for Yip. Sock'em with another solid poke check. That shot on goal save. Second chance. Puck bouncing around. Covered one more time. In front, scores! Great pressure on the defense for Färjestad. It is Ape in front who gets the men in green back to within striking distance.
And you could really kind of see the desperation coming out from Färjestad on that play. It just became about ripping shots on net, and at the end of the day, that's what got them that goal. It was a shot from the point, I think, from Sebi Larson. Hits a body in front. They keep going for it. Keep attacking the net, and Afe gets it and is able to backhand that one in past Kazu. They have the deficit. Only one more goal to make up and tie this game up, but I love to see that from Färjestad. You just hope that kind of effort and that kind of mentality of shoot first is not too little too late.
11 minutes to go here in regulation. A gigantic goal for Färjestad and their playoff hopes. They still need another one. And we know certainly Yip are going to look to reestablish that 2-goal lead. Ekin has this one. Hands off from Mullen, who gains the zone. Shot on, and a good opportunity there. Ekin just couldn't settle it. Puck knocked back to the Färjestad zone. Zip will look to turtle up a little bit here, make it difficult for him to cross the blue line. Doesn't really work. Great handles here by Mullen. Throws one off the pads. Ekin behind the net. Self-pass there. Still has it. Wanted to go back to Mullen. Has it now. Shot scores! But it's going to be waved off for goaltender interference. Let's get another look.
That's unfortunate. I didn't see a whole lot of contact, maybe on the side of the net after the pass was made, but that's unfortunate. You'd think the goaltender was kind of out of the crease in that moment. That was a beautiful play from Färjestad, working it down low, kicking it up top, and the pinch in from Laminens, but as you said, it won't count right there, and it's a bit of a heartbreaker.
Here comes Indy for an old misery compiler there, not able to get it. 6.5, under 6.5 minutes to go here in regulation. Mullen has this one in front, scores! They've been looking for it all game. They finally found it. We're tied at 2 apiece off of the goal from Ekin.
I mean, you said it perfectly. That's what they've been looking for kind of all game. They finally get a chance of it on the rush attempt right there, and Ekin just taps that one home after a nice bit of L skating coming out from Mullen there. Allows Ekin to kind of a little bit time to get behind the defender. He swaps back to facing forwards and is able to get that angle on the pass, and we have a tie game here as Färjestad have had quite the third period.
Wasn't looking pretty for all that long, but the results have finally shown up. 5 minutes to go. An overtime appearance for both of these teams would certainly help, but both of these sides really do need that second point. Let's see how JYP respond, and unfortunately, it's going to be by getting an ice pack for Antti, who's still on the ice. Aro, shot, save, rebound, Provocacia there. Seal off that post in front, and Indy nearly got that backhand sweep. Färjestad one more time. Mullen, the spin, the pass, the shot from Ekin. Good save there. Might have gone just wide. Laminens. Couple of options. Wanted to go in front. Nobody home. Sebi Larson has it now. Weaving his way through, in front and all the way through the crease. Final minute. Laminen's shot. Loose in the slot. Recovered by Aro for JYP. That along to Indy. He had nowhere to go. Färjestad back into the attacking zone at Sebi Larson. Cutting in front, off the pads, tried to shovel it home, and Sile found the rebound. Färjestad finding their offensive groove. JYP trying to hold on for dear life at this stage. Färjestad look to settle things down, get that controlled breakout going, find the passing lane, and that zone entry, pass off the mark. They do have the puck in the zone. Can they keep it in? Composure by JYP. Aro, his pass intercepted. Final 10 seconds. Can one of these two teams find the late winner? Loose puck in front, goes back around, and JYP will survive. A rough moment there for Färjestad. It looked like they had what it took to win it in overtime, or win it in regulation, but we will go to overtime. They do come back from 2 down.
Yeah, it's huge for them. This point is absolutely massive. Really, for both of these teams, the point is beneficial, but this extra one is even more so. I mean, really, JYP Jyväskylä, what a way to come back. Or, sorry, Färjestad, what a way to come back in this one after, really a kind of dominating first 2 periods from JYP Jyväskylä on both sides of the puck here. But again, Färjestad, 6 registered shots in that period alone. Exactly what they kind of needed to start throwing pucks on net. And again, that was just really, really huge for them. And those 2 goals, exactly what they need. We're going to see that second one here. Beautiful bit of work by Mullen to feed that one over to Ekin here. But back a little bit in time to that JYP Jyväskylä goal. Again, it started with a brilliant saucer pass in the neutral zone. Unfortunately, won't be able to get a look at all 3 of them, but I'm sure we will when this game is finished. Just which team is going to be on that winning side and get that so important extra point.
Overtime underway. As Sin mentioned, a very important point up for grabs. Färjestad have officially tied Conquer Gaming in points. Conquer, obviously, at this stage, have a game at hand for JYP Jyväskylä. They have jumped the Fallon Coal Miners, now occupying 13th position. The Coal Miners play tomorrow off broadcast. So JYP still not out of the spot they need to be in. A win would tie them with ZSC Esports for that important 12th position. An incredibly valuable extra point up for grabs here that both teams desperately need. This one goes all the way around, held in by Sockham. Indy goes back to the point. D-to-D, one-timer again, blocked by Ekin. He's read those all game long. Here's Afe now in the corner. Goes in front, loose puck bouncing around. JYP survived the scramble. Sockham will dump that into the far side corner. Laminen's uncontested. To help Färjestad settle it down. This is our final broadcast of the regular season games tomorrow that we wish we could bring to you. It just doesn't work out scheduling-wise. Again, sportsgamer.gg to be able to follow along. And again, we will have our end-of-season recap and playoff preview video at the beginning of next week before the playoffs begin. This will be up on the YouTube side of things after that if you cannot tune into that broadcast. And we'll be able to recap everything that's happened this season. Another wild, unpredictable campaign, and still so much to be decided today and tomorrow. including this game right here. Indy down low in the corner. Antti going to be able to recover it. Ara. One-timer healed the shot. Färjestad trying to get things settled, but JYP starting to be a little bit more aggressive in the attacking zone. They get a free possession back. Here's Antti. Wanted Indy. Just couldn't track down that puck. 8.5 to play. In the first overtime. Could be the first of many. Mala can get that pass through. Taking the contact. Here's Antti again. Forehand shot. Rebound. And covered. Squeezing the pads. It's Provocacia off of the behind the goal line backhand attempt from Indy.
That was a dangerous kind of look from JYP Jyväskylä. 3-on-2 that developed very quickly. They're able to get a shot on net, and I like their mentality here, just kind of shooting for rebounds, hoping to catch Provocacia kind of off guard with someone creeping in on that back door and just being able to get a tap in. Almost worked even from behind the net in that scenario.
This one handled now by Afe. Dishes for Sebi Larson down low in the corner. Great support defense here from Indy. Sile Ferranti around the back of the net. Aro goes right back to him. Antti options, goes to the point for Sile. Weaving his way through, using the boards. Pass in front. Sile's backhand doesn't go. Aro shot and a glove save by Provocacia.
Big saves coming out right here as Jyväskylä getting to get a bit more zone time. And in their own zone, they're doing a good job, as you said, of kind of getting some puck support. They're not collapsing as heavily now because they noticed Färjestad was able to get the perimeter and start working it around.
And the shot, they score! They looked for Sile all game long. They find him when it matters the most. JYP Jyväskylä win it in overtime and pick up that incredibly valuable second point.
Beautiful play off of the draw right there, just feeding it over to Sile, who instead of cutting back across the goalie, goes for the short side and is able to beat him there, just kind of picks the corner as we're seeing right here. The 1T coming out and beating Provocacia for the game winner. JYP Jyväskylä, 2 huge points in that one, and that feels good. You don't want to let that one get away after you take a 2-0 lead early on in the game. Of course, Färjestad fought back. We're able to get the tie and get the point, but JYP Jyväskylä at the end of the day getting that oh-so-important extra point here, and that's one less that Färjestad can grab and try to work their way into the playoffs here. It could be the race is getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and for Färjestad right there, that's a bit hard to not be able to come away with that extra point.
A gigantic result, to say the least. Heavily impacting both of these teams. It took Färjestad until the third period to really get going. It was enough to get them to the overtime to pick up that point, but right here, set play off the draw. The Provocacia just couldn't react to and get over to make that stop. A huge win for JYP Jyväskylä. I'm not sure if we'll get all of the goal replays here. Looks like we will. Such a strong start for JYP.
Yeah, it was. It was an exceptionally strong start for JYP Jyväskylä, and they were just all over Färjestad. I mean, look at that pass through. I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful saucer pass all the way across. And Aro did such a good job of not only handling that, then getting back to the forehand and ripping that one home. I mean, we saw some incredible saucer passes coming up from all then. This one as well. Aro on that one's feeding it all the way across to Indy, giving him a bit of time and space, and beats Provocacia on the forehand, but then came the comeback from Färjestad. We're seeing this first one here, just was a result of them throwing pucks on net, exactly what they needed to do in that scenario. They got rewarded with a goal, and then finally the pass through the slot that they've been looking for all game worked out, and Ekin was able to tap that one home. And of course, in overtime, we just saw the one-time opportunity from Sile to put the nail in the coffin and give that huge, huge extra point to JYP Jyväskylä.
Our first game of the day in the books on this final broadcast of the regular season. JYP Jyväskylä 3-2 in overtime. We still have a second game coming up between these two teams. We'll set the stage for that on the other side of this break. A very brief word from our sponsors, so don't go anywhere. All right, everybody. We are back again. A big thank you to Wilhelm Kovanlakertzi and ST Hockey. Since game 1 of 2 in the books, we are about to see the final regular season game for both Jyväskylä and Färjestad. Let's get you all a look at the standings as things happen to be now. Again, top 8 teams make the playoffs. Right now, Färjestad even on points with Conquer Gaming, but Conquer do have the tiebreaker. Färjestad need to pick up at least a point in this game. And of course, after this, we will be covering Conquer's matchup against ZSC Esports. All the pressure in the world on Färjestad right now, who could very shockingly miss out on the postseason. And then Sin for Jyväskylä right now tied on points with ZSC. Of course, Jyväskylä looking to pick up points here. It's very interesting that the members of Conquer and ZSC get to watch this matchup and see directly how their matchup coming up is going to be affected.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of insane just how kind of down to the wire this is becoming here. But if you're Färjestad, you absolutely need a win out of this game. You kind of needed 4 out of 4 points, but to get 3 out of 4 wouldn't be bad. It gives you a fighting chance, but their destiny's not really in their hands. They're going to need some help from essentially ZSC to take those games off of Conquer here. But first and foremost, Färjestad need to focus on getting this win here, and they need to play this entire game the way they played that third period.
Again, tomorrow, unfortunately, off broadcast, the final 2 matchups of the regular season, the Fallen Coal Miners take on Roots, which could also, of course, have implications for both the playoffs and relegation battles. And then the big one, it's IQ and Stargazing. One of those 2 teams will be relegated. They play each other tomorrow to decide who will ultimately be relegated. It is a series that I desperately wish we could bring to you. Doesn't look like it's going to be possible, unfortunately. But of course, keep an eye out on that matchup. And again, sportsgamer.gg for the up-to-date information. And if by some miracle we find a way, maybe we'll just have to do what we can to track that matchup. So with that, we get ready for this final game here again, Sin, for Färjestad and Jyväskylä. We just saw how important this matchup is for these 2 teams. I am very intrigued to see what type of start we're going to get from both of these sides, but especially Färjestad, who took a little bit to get going in that first game.
Yeah, their first and second period was not very good, and Jyväskylä really was the one who was completely kind of dominating and dictating the flow of play. The middle of the ice simply wasn't there, and Färjestad continued to want to get to that to their own detriment most of the time, and it just continued to feed transitions for Jyväskylä and allow them to get that puck into the zone, and it made Jyväskylä's defense look incredible. Finally at the end, Färjestad was able to break through, but it did take quite some time. They need to kind of channel what they did in that third period, as I said earlier, into this second game.
You see again, Conquer and ZSC coming up in just a few moments upon the conclusion of this. And again, the Wilhelm e-Hockey Tour going on, an event every weekend throughout Finland, sportsgamer.gg for all the information that you need there. We are about ready to go. Game 30 of 30 for both of these clubs. JYP trying to dig themselves out of a relegation battle position, and Färjestad, their playoff hopes come down to this. A regulation loss would confirm that they would be on the outside looking in. They are in their road whites. Jyväskylä in the home black uniforms. Let's see how this plays out. The most important game of the season as Indy feeds it up to Antti. Head of steam here. Good puck protection. Loses it in the double team. You should see it there for Indy, the golden helmet wearer for his team, signifying the team leading scorer. Malin, perhaps not having access to it, but the centerman for Färjestad, his club's leading scorer as well. A little bit of trouble there for Yip to gain the offensive zone. Seeley, of course, scoring that overtime winner. Fed it up to Antti, who had nowhere to go. Checking for Laminance. Good job of avoiding traffic at the blue line. Goes back to the point from Mullen. His shot blocked. Sent around the boards. Big hit there. Puck in front. Unfortunately, Laminance just couldn't hold on to that one. Aro into the attacking zone. See. Oh, man, what a chance there. It was Indy looking for that backhand sweep. just couldn't get the power on it. Laminins now. Very interesting story, of course, for Färjestad. Laminins leaving last season. For Granite, the former Vesa Pampa returns to the club after that club ultimately chose to go their separate ways. Despite being a playoff team, no less. And that's one of the more interesting stories I think we've seen during our 3+ years here now, is just the idea of a playoff team making the Final Four and saying, hey, you know, it's not quite the right fit. Now a good amount of those players could end up missing out on the playoffs here with their new clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Members on the coal miners, and obviously here in Färjestad, it's and also, you know, Antonio in HV71 too.
Absolutely. Chance there as the puck moving its way towards the nets. Sile at the point, back for Antti, and staunch defense from both of these two teams so far in this one, and an offside call with 8:28 to go here in the first period.
Yeah, hasn't been a whole lot of time and space to get things up offensively for either side, as you were saying here. So we're kind of waiting with bated breath for the first team who's really able to get a breakthrough or at least get some sustained offensive pressure.
Sile has this one. Finds Antti. Held on to that one for a lot longer than I thought he would on the back end. Side of the goal, Antti again. So Larson there to help assist. Gotcha had a very strong game, maybe his strongest of the season in that first game. Still wasn't enough to walk away with the win. Aro in the corner. Down low for Indy, back to the point. It's Sile one more time. Pass through. Couldn't find that. Good sustained attacking zone time, though, for Jyväskylä. Finally a bit of reprieve here for FBK. Malin to Laminins. Sebi Larson dangles his way right back to the neutral zone. Final 3.5. Ekin couldn't get that shot off in time. Antti can't find Sile on that pass. Ekin again on the back pressure. Sebi Larson handing off for Laminins. 2 minutes to go. Malin, bit of space to work with. Goes back to the point for Laminins. Trying to go back down low. Aro contesting him, and his shot picked off. Laminins trying to get back here to help cover Indy. Antti wanted Aro. Clipped the post. That pass was broken up. Final 10. One more chance here perhaps for Färjestad. Ekin has it, throws it in front, in the scramble, it kicks back to the point. And that will do it for the opening 20 minutes, yet to find the first goal of this game.
And a much better start for Färjestad. You really didn't see Jyväskylä being able to kind of take control right there. It's very much a back and forth period, and there were a couple chances for either side, but nothing too major. So you can definitely kind of feel how important this matchup is for both of these teams and just how hard they're trying to be able to be that one to get the advantage here, and being very careful in their defensive end. You can kind of see there from the total shots, just 2 registered for Jyväskylä, 0 for Färjestad here. So obviously they're going to want to try to get some pucks on net, but it's just been very kind of a contested and a quick period. Only 2 face-offs in that. It's been pretty crazy how kind of the flow of game has changed from period to period, and obviously here, game to game.
You got to look there at a couple of the replays. Second period about ready to begin here. Both teams needing an extra point, if not both points, to really push themselves closer to where they want to be. But all eyes after this will shift to the teams that are directly ahead of them for both of their respective positions. Concord Gaming and ZSC Esports coming up as a save there off the Indy attempt. Another one-timer and a good glove save there by Provocacia. A long ways away from Sile.
Yeah, absolutely. Sile, you know, that time opting to go back to that far side there, hoping to catch Provocacia over sliding, but really good job by him to be in position to glove that down.
Puck here now for Ekin, right up the middle, self-sauce down low. Has it again in the corner, back to the point. Shot, kick save there by Kazu. Nearly held in. Numbers here for Jyväskylä. Aro nowhere to go. Anti's shot deflects wide. Laminitz. Trying to work his way through. Sile able to take that puck away. 5 minutes gone in the second period. Still looking for our opening goal. It was a 3-2 Jyväskylä overtime win in game one as Antti is denied. And remember that save by Provocacia.
Really interesting job down low from Jyväskylä there to get that puck out front. And yeah, tremendous reaction save coming from Provocacia there. And that could be absolutely massive here down the stretch.
Shot, rebound. Indy can't sweep that one home. Jyväskylä knocking on the door. Wraparound doesn't go either. Provocacia doing everything he can to keep his team in it. Keep Jyväskylä off the board. Sebi Larson. Feed in front. Ekins backhand. Stopped by Kazu. Nervous moments for both netminders here. Saka. Goes all the way around. Delayed call. Jyväskylä will go to the power play unless they score here. Shot. Rebound. And it is touched up by Färjestad. A 2-minute man advantage off of an interference call, and it's Malin, the centerman, crucially sent going to the box.
Yeah, this could be really, really big. And Jyväskylä, they didn't have a great power play in the first game, but here's a chance to be able to get things done and take the lead in this game here. And it starts on the draw. As you said, Antti hasn't been solid this year, but again, no bigger face-off perhaps the course of the season than this one. He comes away with it.
Let's take a 4-2 edge. Sile's shot blocked down at the last moment by Laminitz. Here's Afe, has to drop back for Sebi Larson. Good work. Shoots it right into the glove of Sakram, no less. We did see Yip struggle on the power play. The opportunity they got in game one. Trying to get established here, and they do. Sile pinching in. Puck in front. Still fought on for. Sebi Larson can't clear. Antti to the point. Sile to Sakram. Back again blocked. Antti has it knocked loose. It's it back. Point Sile, Sakam, one-timer, loose puck off of the Indy shot again. Yep, good job of keeping the pressure on. Indy in the corner, we are back to 5-on-5. Antti has it again. Indy, odd-angle shot, takes a very interesting rebound path. Yep, still in control. Indy the net drive. And a bouncing puck over the stick of Sakam. Might it open up an opportunity here. Afe back to Mullen, he scores! Färjestad survive a scare on the penalty kill and strike first. It's the man who was in the box, Malin. And Sim, was that a pass rocketed into the goal?
It absolutely was. He was looking for Afe down low, and it works out because of the angle. It just slides kind of under the feet of Kazu as Afe doesn't pick it up right there, and that's an absolutely huge goal for Färjestad there. A quick momentum swing as they were completely under siege on that power play. A lot of good chances for Jyväskylä, but to get that puck out of the zone as Mullins out of the box, and they're able to score right there and take a 1-0 lead here in the second.
The amount of goals that we have seen come off of pass attempts being, or maybe not, maybe it's more intentional than we think on some of these occasions with that puck being rocketed into the goal. 6 minutes to play here in the second period. Färjestad now the 1-0 lead off of Mullen's goal, his 13th of the season. And perhaps none bigger than that. Färjestad need at least a point to keep their playoff hopes alive. And a shot, and they tie it! Just moments later, Indy, the captain, for Jyväskylä, we are tied at 1. Barely any time to enjoy the lead for FBK.
Just back and forth action throughout the course of this matchup. That was just them driving the net. The puck goes loose, and whose stick does it find? The captain, Indy, and he just picks that one up, goes to the forehand, and rifles it by Provocacia. Tie game for Jyväskylä, and just a heck of a response. Talk about momentum swings. There's another one right there, this time in the favor of Jyväskylä.
Admittedly, totally caught me off guard on that call with just how fast that play developed. how quickly Jyväskylä were able to respond. Will be the next twist of the tail here. FBK back in the zone. Rifled one across. Sakam there to pick it off. Taro chases this one down around the back. Wraparound stop. Still put on for and scores! It's Antti in front. He picks the corner. Jyväskylä have turned it around. 2-1 now here late in the second period.
Just relentless hunger for that puck coming out from Jyväskylä. Beautiful job. Antti finds it and goes short side on Provocacio. Tried to get back to cover that post, but that was a beautifully placed shot coming out from the center of Jyväskylä. And just like that, from down 1-0 to now up 2-1, Jyväskylä have the advantage.
An icing call with 2:19 to play here in the second frame. Not all that long ago, 1-0 for Färjestad. Jyp have shocked them here as they grab a 2-1 lead with goals from Indy and Antti. Loose puck. Antti recovers. We approach the final minute. One back here by Ekin. The playoff hopes for Färjestad hanging on by a thread. Jyväskylä, their dream of not having to fight for their survival in their return season, of course, working their way back to elite. After finding success in our Pro Division last season, and it will come down to the third period where Jyp will have a 1-goal lead. It's 2-1 thanks to this goal from Antti.
Yeah, just again, beautiful job, and that's just hunger for the puck. I mean, they're getting into those areas, and they're really trying to position themselves to grab those loose pucks. They're just out there battling, and that's exactly what you need to do. You can see and feel that desperation coming out really from both of these teams, but especially when one of these teams goes down. You saw it from Jyväskylä. Immediately they come back with a goal, and they're not done yet. They kept pushing. They kept trying to get that, and look at the shots. That is a Jyväskylä team that simply does not want to be denied. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get the W here. 14 registered shots to just the 3 of Färjestad. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. And right now for Jyväskylä, it's been working out.
You got to look there one more time at the goal. 2-1 here as the third period is about to begin. The opening draw here, despite the face-off advantage throughout the season for Malin. Antti putting up a very strong effort on the dot. Here's Indy now on that right-hand side. Aro can't get that shot off. Good attempt, though. A 3-1 lead. Granted, we did see FBK come back from 2-0 down, but a 3-1 lead here would certainly put an incredible amount of pressure on the shoulders of the 6 Färjestad players. Again, Provocacia in goal there. Back up! And they hit the posts! A rough situation for FBK not having McSavitt available. A lot of people would argue that they shouldn't have been in this position where it would come down to the final day of the season for them. Here's Ekin, head of steam, tried to go across. Good job by the Jyp defense. And a penalty is called. And you can see the frustration from Malin as he tried to win that puck back, and instead will take his second penalty of the game. Sile for Sakam. Puck picked up by Afe. Another 2-minute man advantage for Jyväskylä.
Absolutely massive. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. They're really attempting to sort of forecheck there, and yeah, I don't mind. Really blame Mullen for being frustrated on that. Didn't quite get a great poke animation, but again, they're really finding themselves in these desperate situations time and time again, and they're having to kind of really go all out, and that's sort of benefiting Jyp.
As that shot fired just wide by Sile, and he scored the OT winner in game 1, and an offside call there for Färjestad. Sin, even if they pull off this win, even if they get into the playoffs, not exactly the inspiring performance from Färjestad that you would expect to see from a team of this caliber.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I don't want to say non-factor, but we haven't really seen Afe be as dangerous as we expect him to be. They haven't really been able to get the Omahas going, nothing like that. It's just he's been neutralized.
Antti across, a crucial block there by Sebi Larsson. Who's puck in front, that one off the back of the net. 40 seconds to go on the power play. See you later, Sakam. Indy shot, rebound. Kicked out to Sebi Larsson, who will clear it all the way down. Paddled there by Kazu, opens up the space for Ekin, who banks it off the back of the net as well. We are back to 5-on-5. 12.5 to play in regulation. A quick out, handled well by Ekin. One back here again by Mullen, across, and again just taken out of the crease by Indy. Ekin, nowhere to go. FBK do recover in the neutral zone. It's Sebi Larsson over the line, trying to hold it. He does. Ekin shot, picked off by Sakam in front, who feeds it up to Antti. Now here's Aro, head of steam, shot saved. Provocacia shutting the door 5-hole. Keeping this a 1-goal differential. Another big save by him. Poke check by Indy. You see JYP. No hurry to really apply that forechecking pressure. 8.5 minutes to play. 2 points for JYP would temporarily move them, as that shot just wide. It would temporarily move them out of a relegation position. Laminitz. For Ekin, nowhere to go. Again, the members of Conquer Gaming. They play ZSC coming up in just a few minutes on this cast. Conquer have to be loving this. A playoff spot is secured for them if Färjestad fail to register a point in this one. Poked loose by Aro. Generating speed on that right-hand side. Drives behind the net. Over to Indy, he scores! All three forwards involved. The captain strikes. It is 3-1 for Jyväskylä heading into the final 5 minutes.
And it starts in the neutral zone. The poke check to free that puck up. Sent Aro with a head of steam. He didn't have the middle, so he took the outside. Went around the net, past to Antti, back across to Indy. The one time finds the back of the net. 5:06 remaining. It is full-on desperation time for Färjestad. If they don't pick up a point, they are officially eliminated from playoff contention.
Unbelievable turn of events. Färjestad need a point to put pressure on Conquer Gaming in their upcoming series against ZSC. And again, right now for ZSC, if Jyväskylä pick up this extra point, it would force the Lions to have a good result against Conquer Gaming to avoid a relegation battle, as Aro nearly shoveled that one home. Provocacia plays it out. 3 minutes left to save their season. Shot on, and Kazu forced to cover. 2:56 to go, perhaps, in the Färjestad season.
Yeah, and that was a good attempt right there. Unfortunately, the shot was on net, but that's the first time we really saw them try an Omaha play for Afe right there, and in that case, it was shut down.
Off the draw. Sebi Larsson's shot doesn't go. Good bit of contact there. Now it's Sele around the back. Aro's wraparound doesn't go. He takes a big hit. 1:40 to play. Can Färjestad salvage their season? Afe has this one. Sebi Larsson stepping in. Tried to shovel one off the back. Here's Antti for Aro. 50 seconds to play. JYP in the attacking zone. Antti recovers it in the neutral zone. He has it, sends it over to that far side corner. Jyväskylä looking to eliminate Färjestad from playoff contention. And more importantly for them, avoid having to fight for their survival. This one's sent down. Ekin's going to win the race. 24 to go. Thrown in front. Mullen has it. He can't get a shot off. Sebi Larsson for Lehmanen's the pass off the mark. Lehmanen sends it down low. There's Sele to pick it off. He'll dump it out. Chopped off the board. Jyväskylä put the final nail in the coffin of Färjestad. They are going to win this one. A shocking result for Färjestad and what has to be an incredible disappointment for a team that's simply, on paper, too good to not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. This team is simply too good to not make the playoffs, but they couldn't figure out the chemistry, and I think we're really seeing it here in this matchup too. They just, the missing passes and like miscommunication, trying to do, too much of forcing at one point and then, not taking enough shots. I think they even ended this with only 3 or 4 registered shots throughout the entire game, and I don't know. I just think that play style for them has not been working all season, but they continue to try to go back to it almost stubbornly at times. And unfortunately for them, they won't be making the playoffs for the first time in, I think it's got to be at least 4 seasons that this Färjestad team will not be in the postseason, and maybe even 5 seasons. It's pretty nuts, but that's what happens. And it's a team like Jyväskylä. And the history between these two clubs, I mean, it's not obviously the same team, but Antti, Indy, and I think maybe even ECL were part of that old roster that was upset in the first round by a Färjestad team, an 8-seed Färjestad team. So maybe a little bit of a nice bit of revenge for Antti and Indy to be able to kind of stop their season, completely end their season in a matchup like this, where they have a chance to work out of a relegation spot as well. That's spoiler and helping out your own destiny.
Listen, I had to look it up. I believe our first season here was ECL 9, and that is the last time that Färjestad failed to make the playoffs. The next year they finished 8th and then up to 4th, where we've been used to seeing them now as one of the top, 5 to 6 teams, bare minimum. And instead, despite bringing in Laminens and, bringing Ekin into the fold here, this team fails to make the playoffs. I mean, the story here, obviously, we want to give plenty of credit to Jyväskylä and the fact that, they returned to the elite division this season and might just have secured their spot. We'll have to wait for the outcome of our second matchup that's going to be coming up in just a few moments here. Again, Conquer Gaming and ZSC Esports battling for very important points, at least for ZSC's side of things, as Conquer have officially clinched a playoff spot in one of the craziest tournament events we've ever seen in our time here. But Färjestad, for the first time, as Sin mentioned now, in a long time, failing to make the playoffs. They're not in a relegation situation, but still just an unbelievable turn of events. As Sin, correct me if I'm wrong, this is technically ECL 14, if we were going by the old way of counting the seasons. So for the first time, in 4 or 5 seasons now, FBK failed to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Despite expectations being as high as ever.
Despite us literally saying, I think at the beginning of the season, this may be the strongest roster that they've iced. And that just kind of goes to show you how on paper it can be so different than the results when you start playing together. And maybe it's just too many clashes of styles where they're trying to, get some kind of a formula that just wasn't working. And that was the case throughout the entirety of the season. They could not get that offense figured out. And I think it really showed in this one and showed some of their oddly defensive struggles too. It was just kind of a situation for Färjestad where it just seems like the wheels kind of just continued to fall off and they couldn't quite, keep things together.
Absolutely. So again, so much just confirmed here in terms of playoff situations. An incredible turn of events. I saw our broadcast partner, B Major, mention when's the last time a team this big with this resume, the caliber of resume that FBK have, when is the last time we saw a team like this miss out on the playoffs? I don't know if we've ever seen a team of this caliber in our time here with the ECL Elite Division miss the playoffs.
The closest argument you can make is kind of the fall of Jyväskylä, going from 1 seed and then a couple seasons later being relegated. But we haven't seen this quick of a turnaround, a perennial, playoff contender, and for the last 3 seasons, a 4 or 5 seed, and all of a sudden they miss the playoffs here, and they lose to a team who is, in a relegation position. Well, not anymore, as JYP Vaskala, I believe, has worked their way out of that, if I'm not
For the
mistaken.
moment, temporarily. Again, so much to be sorted out. We will have the full playoff picture sorted for you now as our 8 teams are locked in. We'll cover everything that we have to cover here on the other side of this break. Coming up, though, we get to see what's going to happen with this relegation situation now, because Jyp Vaskala are temporarily safe, but Conquer plays ZSC coming up. Can ZSC battle back and put Yip right back to where they started on this day? Or will it be the ZSC esports squad that have to fight for their survival in this division? We will find out very, very soon. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us. So much more to talk about after this brief intermission.